Hello, designers. This is Rebecca with your assignment 2, Making the Band Critique. Let's go over some of the specs and then we will get into your submissions. All right, so you were to present the band branding components that you've gathered and created. So you were to show me all of your brainstorming and mind mapping, as well as create a musician and a fan persona. You were to create a mood board for the band branding, as well as a logo and your standard sheets. And then you were to either do a photo shoot, look for some stock imagery, or create using some photos using AI. Okay. And then you were to present them all in a slideshow in this order. All right, thanks so much. Let's get into it. First up is Nguyen. Nguyen genre is psychedelic. So I just am going to skip through the brainstorming and mind mapping a bit, as well as the personas. If you'd like to read your classmates' personas, you can just pause the video and go through them. Then please know that I have read all of your stuff thoroughly. Okay. So here's our brainstorms. And our first mind map, second mind map. Excellent. This is the song list and band name and album name and our persona mind maps and our musician persona and our fan persona. All right, and here's our mood board. So the swirliness and everything can lend itself to psychedelia. The color palette is, I would not characterize as psychedelic. Um, So I might need to add a couple of darker tints as well as maybe something punchier. Like notice how this yellow is very bright and punchy. That could work. We have some teals in here and blues that are a bit more punchy than what you have in the color palette. So I think that those will help to bring out some of the vibrance of the psychedelic genre. I know there is also like black and white psychedelic illustrations too, but I you're leaning more towards having lots of color, and so that's why I'm specifying a little punchier stuff. All right, so here's our first logo. So this is really nice. I like the font that you chose is really perfect for the genre. The stars are a nice addition, and I do like this, the whole idea of this celestial kind of vibe. I think that the this little swirl here though is not it's not like round enough. It's not like an oval. So instead of kind of free-handing this, I recommend using the oval tool and drawing an oval around this. And then you can create a duplicate version of the oval and just slide it up or down a bit. And then you can use either your shape making tool or your Pathfinder tools to kind of dissect that wherever they overlap out of that circle. And then it'll feel more like a true orbit path instead of just like a swoosh. And then the moon is really pretty. I like the glow that you added and the gradients that you added throughout. The text is also a lovely touch there. Excellent. Okay. Sorry, one more thing. I noticed this space here is a little bit taller than this space here, so you can remedy that by just bumping the word ethereal up a little bit to center it a little bit more. Okay. This version I don't think is quite as psychedelic, while this font is very cool, and I think that H is incredible. I just think this one is a better fit for the genre. All right. Excellent. Okay. And then here is the final color palette. These colors are very pretty. They're just very close to each other in terms of their tint. And so I recommend you will need to create some contrast, and it's going to be hard to do that when these colors are very, very close to each other. So notice that in this image here, you have some yellow coming through that is a little bit brighter, as well as these blues and teals. And even these purples are darker. Oops, sorry, right here. So I recommend going a little darker with some of the shades. You could keep these 5 tints and then just add to them. with some darker shades. You can even go in with your eyedropper tool and sample these exact colors in there if you'd like, or you can, try to pull them from something else. But I do think you're going to need to be able to create some contrast for whether it's readability or creating a focal point, and that you can't get there with these this color palette. Okay, but I love these fonts that you chose. They're very beautiful. I think this font, um, being used as like a header on your album cover lyrics and things, will work out really nicely. Um, and it does complement this, the font in your logo nicely. So I think it's okay to use all three there. Lovely. Now these photos, your characters are really nice. I do not get psychedelic from any of these photos. So I just need you to kind of revisit um, some psychedelic posters and photos that are actually from the 60s, not something that somebody else made recently as an ode to the genre. Um, the You can use these exact same people and just feed these images into your chat engine. I'm sorry, not chat engine, your AI engine, and just ask it to use these people, but put them in a psychedelic setting, psychedelic clothing. It's like, 60s hairstyles, that kind of thing. And you can also feed it your new color palette, and tell it to use that color palette in the images, and then you'll get some beautiful results. So you won't have to completely change your characters. You just need to change basically the time that it looks like they're in. You know what I mean? All right, great. So just to clarify, there is a lot of sort of references to fairies and um, like nymphs and kind of like woodland creatures in psychedelia, even in some of the music and stuff. So it's totally good to have that kind of an influence, and you can also, specify that when you redo your images, if you want to go that route. Like these women can totally look like hippie fairies in a way, um, we just need uh, them to look more 60s than modern. They look very modern right now. And then um, it says the process wasn't about aesthetics. You wrote that here, but it is, unfortunately, very much about aesthetics. So I'm happy that you felt like creative freedom. I just, and that you totally were, leaving your comfort zone. I think that's so fantastic. I just want you to push it even further to try to replicate that genre as much as possible. All right? Excellent. Thank you so much. Next up is Arabert. All right, so here's your first brainstorm list. And here's your mind map. That's a great looking mind map. And your list of songs. Band name is Plastic with your album. These are really nice looking mind maps. Lovely work. Here's our band member. She's very cool. And here's our fan who is very much influenced by this look. I love it. Very nice. Here's our mood board. Very punchy. Really fun. And here's our logo. So your genre is 80s new wave, but you're really leaning towards the punkier side of 80s new wave. I think this logo turned out really nice. I love how it's kind of stretched horizontally. This eye is like very narrow to almost like represent like a heavy lid and definitely like heavy eyeliner. It's really nice. Really cool. I also think the typography turned out really beautifully, how it's placed in there. The gestalt is very nicely done. Really nice. All right. And then, um, hold on, let me go back one thing. I don't know if you could you turn this into a perfect circle since pupils are perfect circles? I think that might um, be necessary. Okay, that's the only thing. As for this color palette, perfectly 80s. It's great. I think all of these fonts are going to work nicely together. It's going to look awesome. Yeah, the textures are really beautiful. This gritty texture right here is so pretty. It's like stippling almost, and I really like that. I haven't seen that used very much, that at least like this example specifically, so I think that's going to look nice. I'm interested to see how you apply the shrink wrap. That'll be cool. Here's our photos. They turned out lovely, really cool. Let me just look back for a second. Okay. So I'm noticing like the teal and pink lights in these three images, but then this other one is like very yellow. She really looks like Chrissy Hines here a little bit. Um, you could, if you wanted to, go into Photoshop and use the curves or levels, either one, adjustment layer. They have a white eyedropper in there. And while this yellow tint does make it, sorry, does lend to kind of a dinginess, if you were to use the white eyedropper from either of those adjustment palettes there, then you can, or panels, you could click on somewhere that's supposed to be white in the image. There is like a sticker back here. Even the door frame, there's like a highlight over here. You can play with the different places and it will punch it up a bit so they're more, the image looks a little more saturated and less like tungsten light-ish, you know, and it might, if you were to use these next to each other or on the same piece, it will help to complement the other three photos a little bit more than look like um, it came from a different shoot almost, you know. I'm glad to hear that you had fun on this project and you really enjoyed the research part of it. I don't think your palette is like super weird. I think it looks really good. I mean, you can't really go wrong with with the CMYK combination. So I think we made a wonderful choice there. And the I do recommend I could by reading this, I'm seeing that you're kind of pulling from a lot of different areas in the genre, which there are so many different sort of like little subgenres of it. What I recommend is kind of picking two or three of your favorite like album covers or posters, whatever you find that you really want to pull from and kind of just ignore the rest of the genre so that you don't really confuse yourself because some of it is like comparing apples and oranges and it's going to be hard to meld those together. Not impossible, but just, um, you know, to kind of stay true to your personas that you already built. It might be good to sort of just filter out the rest of the noise and you know really hone in on like three specific styles that you like. Okay, all right, thanks so much. Next up is James. Here's your brainstorm and some your first initial little sketches here. Excellent. Oh, sorry. Okay, some mind maps. These mind maps could definitely dig deeper. They're not very deep right now and you have lots of paper there that you could fill up. Okay, the deeper you go, the more you creativity you unleash. Okay. Right. Here's our first persona. Second. Here's a great mood board. So I think you're going with 80s hip hop because I'm seeing Tyler the Creator on here, but I'm not sure because I don't see anything 80s and you didn't put your name on the list of the genres. Um, so I am confused as to where we're going here. All right, and here is the logo. Okay, good. All right. It's a fun color palette, but I'm not seeing, I don't know what genre we're doing here. I'm sorry, I just have no idea what's going on. Okay, we're getting closer. We've got a duo. Okay, so reading these reflections, it's a little more clear which direction you were going. However, there is not an option to choose an R&B group or a dance pop group. The options are 60s psychedelic, 70s funk, 70s punk, 80s hip hop, 80s new wave, or 90s grunge. So I need you to go back to the beginning of the course. I need you to fully read all of the modules. It's apparent that you didn't do that. I need you to please pick a genre and add your name to the genre list. And I need you to revisit this assignment. You can probably use part of your logo. It's already off to a good start. I saw that you only did 8 logo thumbnails. The requirement is a minimum of 40. So please go ahead and do that and email me once the work is done. Thank you. All right, next up is Jonathan. Here is Jonathan's brainstorming list. Here is our list of song titles and our album name. Great. Excellent. These mind maps are pretty good. Yeah, looks good. These are great personas. Really nice work. Nice layouts. Excellent. Lovely mood board. Very fun. Okay, so I'm happy to see some 80s imagery. I do think you can find more actual 80s imagery and put it in here. So, for example, these two are looking pretty 80s to me. This one, not so much, but you can find like a real 80s boom. Well, I don't know. Maybe that boombox is from the 80s. It doesn't, I don't know. It's close. This arm is not from the 80s. um, this DeLorean, while it can, yes, be from the 80s, this style of graffiti was not yet. Graffiti was not that advanced yet in the 80s. And these guys don't look like they're from the 80s to me. She is like dressing like she's from the 80s. This one can pass. I will um yeah, that one's pretty good. But if you could go back and actually find like album covers from the 80s, photos of musicians in the 80s of 80s hip hop musicians, I think that will help you with your mood board and help you kind of refocus every time you look at your mood board. Okay, now here is our True School logo. It turned out really nice. I love the texture in the word true. It's really balanced. It's beautiful. Really nice gestalt. Um, the contrast between the text on the top and the school on the bottom is really beautiful. It's all working nicely. Very balanced. Yeah, looks really good. Nice work. And then here's all of our lovely thumbnails. Great. Here's our branding. No problem. I understand that. Okay. So our mood board is very warm. I'm sorry, not our mood board. Our color palette's really warm. I think that'll work. That'll work really nicely. Really punchy and striking against the black and white. And I think all those fonts will work nicely too. It's very clean. While looking at this, it does not look very much like the album cover art as far as the color palette goes. So just a heads up there, you might need to bring in some of these reds on the album cover. Okay, these photos are great. They turned out so good, really good, really nice pieces to work with. And they do feel authentic. It's really nice. I love this cityscape back here. That looks so cool. It's really good. Fun. Nice work. I agree that you're off to a good start. I think it's very strong. You have some really strong photos to work with. Your logo's really clean and good to go. And I really like that color palette. I think you're good. No more tweaking. Just go for it. It's good. All right. Thanks so much. All right. Next up is Anna. Lovely brainstorming. And here's our lists. Beautiful. Great mind mapping. Excellent. Wonderful. And our persona mind map. Really great. Really good. Good stuff. Whoa, these are cool. Excellent. Really lovely. All right, and here's our mood board. Very nice. Okay, and here is our logo. The grunge Gothic font is really lovely. I really think it's cool how it sort of switches different typefaces within it, and it's lovely. I love all the scratchy marks. Looks really good. Your illustration is also really beautiful. It blends really nicely with the text. I love all the variations in line weight. The X over the I is just hilarious, and I like the chunk out of the ear. It's really beautifully done. Good job. That's nice. Real nice. All right, and here's our color palette. So the color palette, I'm interested to see how you use it because that light blue does not feel grungy to me, but it doesn't mean that it can't successfully be grungy. Um, like I don't see it being used in your personas at all. Not that it had to be, but I'm just, we'll see how that goes. And then, but the rest of the colors I can see as being very grungy because they're very warm and earthy. And this Gothicus font is way cool. I also like this I'm Fell font with it. That's gonna look so nice. It's like a really cool kind of typewriter font, but grittier. It's lovely. Nice choices. And of course, all these textures are gonna look awesome. Great. Very nice photos. Excellent. They look great. So I'm so happy to read that you really played with like a ton of um, different blending modes and layer modes and like stuff that you might not always delve into in Photoshop. And that's what makes Photoshop so fun, like all the experimentation that you can do and just layer upon layer upon layer. It's just a blast. So I'm glad that you really got to dig into that. And I think you did such a fantastic job just applying all of these effects and textures. It does feel super grungy, and I cannot wait to see what else you come up with, especially after seeing those personas. They turned out so beautifully. So great work. Thank you. Next up is Galilea. So here are your brainstorms and thumbnails and your mind map. Excellent. And your list. Good. Here's our personas for the mind map personas. Good. Okay, here's the personas. Excellent. Great. All right. So this is a really fun mind map. I like seeing authentic 80s imagery on here. This makes me so happy. Yay! Really good stuff. Really good. Good, good, good. I mean, she's not 80s, but that's okay. I think you can make it work. And then band logo. So we've got two options here. You got to pick one, and this one is the more successful one. It's very unique and it's the way to go. This one is just, it's cool, like with all these kind of ligatures, everything kind of running together, but this one is, I just feel like a little bit more experimental. Okay. With this one, is a little bit of kerning I'd like you to address. So I think that you need to move the O a little more to the right to give yourself more of a space between the E and the O, but then move the P a little closer to that O. The space between the P and the H is good. The space between the H and the E, I think the E needs to move to the right a bit. The L needs to move to the right a bit. The I needs to move to the right a lot. The A needs to move to the right a bit. And the space between the A and the S is good. So everything just needs to take a step or two to the right, except for this space here that needs to be closed up a little bit more. Okay. So I'd say strive for this space right here. That's a good space between the bowl of the P and the H there. Okay. So something that you can do is you can create, there is a measurement tool in Photoshop, I'm sorry, in Illustrator that you could try to use. The other thing that we do the old school way is to draw a tiny circle in there, that the edges of the little circle touch each side. And then you use that circle, you place it between each letter where they're touching, and then you just move the letters together until both of them are touching the edge of that circle. The only place that's not going to work very well is right here, because between the I and the A, because you have this huge gap here. If you use that circle method, it's going to make it look like you have a very large space. So that one you're going to have to optically kind of mess with. You could probably use maybe the space between the A and the S here to put that here, but you'll just have to play with it to see what looks best. Just squint your eyes, and if you see any very large gaps, then you know the gap is too big. And if you see no gap at all, or it's like really tight, then you know that you gotta move it a little bit. Okay, excellent. All right, next one. I love this color palette. It's gonna be awesome. I'm very happy with it. Um, the yeah, I think that you could still definitely use this font, the Eris, um, for other headers and things, as well as it'll look nice with this. That'll look nice. I like that font. It's very close to Future, and I think that's perfect for the 80s. This font I'm not crazy about because of the tight tracking. It becomes illegible in a few places and not in, like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like an intentional way. So for sure, you can find a script. There's so many awesome script fonts, but I think you can find a better one than that if you need it still. Okay. And these textures are fantastic. So you're using photos of the bangles, and I am totally cool with that because I love them. I love them so much. Excellent. That's great. With this photo of the bangles, why don't you take it into Photoshop and just use your curves, fill your curves adjustment layer to get some actual real black in there. Right now, none of these blacks are actually black. They're just a very, very dark gray. Notice that in this picture, it's a lot more contrasty. Don't use the contrast adjustment filter, use curves. You could even use levels if you want, but curves is a little more accurate. This one as well, you could pump those blacks up just a smidge. It's a little more contrasty than this one. This one's good to go, and this one's good to go. All right. All right. I'm so happy to hear that you had fun overall, and or it was a positive experience overall, and that it was challenging creatively. I think that's a good thing, right? That's why we're here. um, uh, and I think you made some really fantastic choices. That's It's all going to work so beautifully together, so you're on the right track for sure. You're doing great. All right, thanks everybody. I'll see you in part 2.